Hello, and thank you all for being with us today. A very special Sunday afternoon edition of the Tennessee Informer. Our special guest today is U.S. Army veteran of 32 years, serving 2 tours of duty in Vietnam, as well as serving in Desert Storm in 1991. He has put his Vietnam experiences in not one, but 2 powerful books that really bring those memories to life and provide for us a front row seat to the particular time in history. Joining us from Stewart County today is Colonel retired George Mauldin. We were also going to have retired Lieutenant Colonel Fred Shaw with us, but he's unable to make it, and that we hope that that situation will come out good. Let's put it that way. Thank you for being with us today. How are you doing, George?
Doing fine, thank you.
I appreciate you coming on, and we're going to get right to it. You know, I've got your sheet here, and I'm sure this is probably a summarized sheet. You've had some serious experiences. I mean, I'm talking just setting aside the combat, which we're going to talk a lot about.
Thank you.
You really got around.
I did.
In a good way.
I did, yes.
Yeah. So before we get to that, I just want to get a little more background. I know you lived in Stewart County for a long time. I've known you for several years. So where are you originally from?
I was born in Albany, Georgia. 3 months after I was born, my parents decided to move to the Panhandle of Florida. I've never quite understood why my dad made that decision, except I have an older brother, so at that point he had 2 children, and he was going to become a farmer.
Right.
And I think that was maybe his approach to avoiding the draft. Possibly. We never really, I wish I had pinned him down on this. Anyway, we lived there until I was age 5, or until the war ended.
Right.
In 45. And when the war ended, we moved to South Alabama. I went up to junior high there, and then we moved to Orlando, Florida, just north of Orlando, and went through high school there.
Okay. So you spent a lot of time in Florida then?
A lot of time.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so why'd you join the Army? You enlisted initially in 60.
I did. Well, I was about to be drafted.
Okay.
And I was a great admirer of German artillery. I'd heard a lot about it from, in some cases, veterans who
on the other end of it.
Receiving end of it,
Right.
yes. So I thought, well, okay, I can stay out of the infantry by if I volunteer, I can volunteer for the type training I want.
Right.
So I volunteered for the artillery.
Right. Now in 60, they were drafting in 60 because Vietnam didn't really, I know there were troops there early. I actually had an uncle who was there early and in surrounding countries, but they were drafted in 1960?
Yeah, but they were not drafting in the numbers they were later.
Yeah, right.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't aware that they were drafting at that time. Okay, wow. So you enlisted, you did 3 years, got out E5, you wanted to come back in and be an artillery officer. You went to Fort Benning and you saw the light and decided to go infantry, right?
Well, as I've explained, the artillery OCS is a lot smaller.
Right.
They have far fewer quotas for candidates than infantry.
Right.
That was one thing. Secondly, I did not realize what was actually happening. That already President Johnson was preparing a unit at Fort Benning,
right,
that would ultimately become the 1st Cav Division, and that we were. Frankly, I think he misrepresented the facts to all of us, American citizens, by saying that we will not fight the war in Vietnam. We will assist them, we will advise them, and we will provide logistical support.
Right.
But that was not in keeping with what he already had going on, what was in place.
Right, yeah, and you don't plan a division overnight and set it up if you don't have some intent to use it.
So I changed my priority to infantry, and lo and behold, not immediately, but very quickly, I found myself assigned to begin OCS training in August of 1964.
Okay. And then you graduated in February of 65, and you were with the Davy Crockett. That was a tactical nuke. And a lot of people probably didn't know that thing existed. I've seen one of them in a museum somewhere.
there are retired Army folks, officers, senior non-coms,
Yeah.
who don't have an idea what that Davy Crockett was. I guess that's normal, but yeah. And I have the distinction of deactivating the last active Davy Crockett unit in the U.S. Army at 82nd Airborne Division
Right.
in 1968.
So they weren't around for very long then.
No, and they were, the idea that the battalion commander could have
A tactical
the
nuke.
authority of a tactical nuclear weapon, his own authority for it. Of course, I'm sure there were strings attached, but what the 82nd did, they consolidated all the Davy Crockett weapon systems under Division Artillery.
Ah.
And I was assigned to command an infantry platoon under DeVarty
Okay.
in February of '68.
Okay.
Anyway, you may want to get back to other things that you were going to talk about earlier in my life. We can do that if you'd like. I've moved forward here.
Yeah, that's fine. Is there
few years.
anything earlier that you wanted to cover, that you wanted to bring up?
Well, I did well in artillery training, and my scores were pretty high. And they asked me, because there was a shortage of surveyors, they asked me if I wanted to go to survey school.
Complete change of MOS then,
Yes.
or branch.
Well, I went through and I made it with tutoring. The math was a bit stiff for me.
Right.
And then I was assigned to Germany. And I was assigned to an artillery battalion, but I never worked as either on a gun crew or as a surveyor, because the sergeant major of the battalion saw that I had typing in high school, called me to his office when I was processing in,
Right.
and asked me if I could type. And I said, yes, Sergeant Major, I can. He says, well, here, take this letter and type it over there. And I sat down and typed it up and gave it to him. And he says, well, that's pretty good. You're now the battalion S1 clerk.
You're hired.
That's what I did until the last 6 months that I was in Germany.
Where were you at in Germany?
I was near Nuremberg
Oh, okay.
in a little town called Fürth.
I've heard of it. Never been there, but I've heard of it.
It was a small Kaserne, as they called it, a German word.
Yeah.
Small. There was a tank battalion on it. This was a self-propelled artillery battalion. They had a small aviation detachment and a small signal detachment. That's all that was there.
Now, this was when you were enlisted.
I was enlisted.
Okay.
Yeah, I made E5 before. I made E5 because I agreed to, well, first off, I was involuntarily extended
Cuban Missile
in
Crisis.
October
Right.
for the missile crisis, and I volunteered to extend 90 more days to be promoted to E5. I'm kind of glad I did.
Yeah. Did you write up your own orders?
No, I was not a battalion clerk at that time. I went back to the survey section.
Oh, okay. Well, it sounds like you had a pretty good time there, though.
Oh, I did. In many ways, we trained a lot, and we spent a lot of time on alerts.
Yep.
I mean, we would not only go out on our alerts, but stay out
Yep.
until we were free to go back to our concerns.
Even in Germany in the 80s, when I was there, early 80s, same thing. I mean, we trained a lot, and we had a lot. I think we had 3 alerts in one day. I mean, it was just back to back, and it was, an alert was a pretty common thing at that time, and probably even more so in your time, especially around the Cuban Missile Crisis time.
Well, I mean, there was great concern about the Soviets coming through the Fulda Gap.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, legitimate, I believe,
Oh, yeah.
especially during the time of maniacs like Khrushchev and a few others.
They took us there when I was stationed over there. Said, "Okay, guys, we just want you to see where you're supposed to die at."
What time frame was
This
that?
would have been 84 to 86, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
And that was our understanding. We were just a speed bump till all the troops could get over there. That's the way we understood it anyway.
I think that's what it was.
Yeah. It would have been ugly. It would have been all kinds of ugly. So you closed out the Davy Crockett, and then from October of 68 to July of 69, you were in the 9th Infantry Division. Isn't that 9th Infantry Division? That was Colonel, oh, what is his name? He wrote a book about face. I don't know why I can't
not
remember.
Hathcock. Oh, no, not Hathcock. He's a
You're thinking about Sniper.
Sniper. No, not Hathaway. Oh, my gosh.
We're thinking about the same guy.
Yeah, we are. We are. He commanded a battalion. He was a brigade commander also.
Right.
He was primarily riverine.
Yeah.
In the 9th Division, he was I think that was 3rd Brigade. I was in the 1st Brigade of the 9th.
Okay.
9th Division, yeah. As I was in the 1st Brigade of the 1st Cav Division earlier, right?
Wow.
I wrote that someplace in there because the 1st Cav, that 1st Brigade of the 1st Cav was airborne.
Right.
Airborne tyranny, airborne weaponry, transportation, everything.
Right.
We never made a jump. I was on jump status the whole year I was there.
Right.
Never made a jump, but that was okay with me.
Yeah. I think there'd be a lot of bad LZs there in Vietnam. I think that'd be a problem. So, and we'll get to this, but it does say you were one of the first load of American troops to be withdrawn from Vietnam.
I was.
Wow.
I was.
So first in, first out.
Well, I wouldn't say I was first in. No. I didn't go in with the 1st Cav either, you know.
Okay.
They went in September of 65. I was a replacement. The whole plane load I was on went to the 1st Cav in early January 66.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and I think now your first book covered your first tour, right? Pretty much.
No, the first tour was strictly about my second tour as a company commander.
Okay, your first book. Okay, all right, and we'll get to that a little more. I still want to go through this because you've got a pretty remarkable career. I mean, granted, you had enough time to do all this. 32 years is a long time.
I was so very fortunate, really.
Yeah.
Really, I was.
Yeah. And we talked about it before. You know, if you want more to do, then do what you're doing good, and you'll get more. You know, it's not like they find somebody else to train up. It's like, hey, this guy can do it. And I'm confident you can do this too. And here, have at it.
I really believe, though, that I was probably a better infantryman than I was anything else. You know, we develop a mentality in the infantry.
Yep.
If you get enough of it, especially in a war zone, I mean, you kind of feed on it.
Yeah.
I know this is not easy to understand, but you feed on the excitement at times.
Right.
There are down times, of course, but you get a lot of adrenaline.
Yeah.
When you're in a war zone, if you're a combat troop.
Yeah. And I don't think there's another type of adrenaline probably that matches that one.
Not that I know, anyway. Yeah.
So did you become an adrenaline junkie afterwards?
Well, almost. I mean, yeah. I missed the action, and the action was draining, physically and psychologically, as a company commander.
Right.
I think that was true of certainly platoon leaders, the lieutenants,
Right.
And at the captain level, we had the same. Now, at the battalion level, I mean, the battalion commander didn't run the rice paddies and was not awake all night on ambushes or.
Right. Not out there all the time.
No,
Right.
no, it was different.
Yeah.
But it was physically draining. The Mekong Delta is not your friend.
How hot does it get over there?
It doesn't get, I don't think it reaches 100.
But it's humidity.
The humidity is 100%.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's true in the Central Highlands too, where my first tour was. You get under that jungle canopy with 90 degrees, very high humidity, it'll just drain the liquid right out of your body. It's amazing.
Did you have a lot more heat casualties than we hear about? Because that's not something we hear about, but I'm like, there had to be some.
Yes, oh yes, sir. Yes, indeed.
Wow.
Yeah. And, You know, we didn't have so many in the Delta. I don't know exactly why, except maybe, well, we were in water a lot. Maybe it had a cooling effect or something. But
Well, the Highlands is mountainous, right?
yes,
Okay. I mean, you're adding that to everything else.
yeah,
That's I could see that would be definitely tax you. I never did go to Afghanistan, but that's one of the things I heard a lot of the guys talk about is, hoofing it over there. That's, especially at altitude.
right.
So you came back in. Now you're an officer. You've had your first command in October of '68 to July. This was in the 9th Division, and you come back. You complete your bachelor's degree in Tampa. You speak Arabic, and you're well versed in the whole Middle Eastern culture, to include the Islamist ideology or doctrine, however you want to look at it. You worked at DIA for a while, the Defense Intelligence Agency, and I'm kind of skipping around here. You were in 80, you were the attaché for the training course of Hebrew language, and this was in Tel Aviv. You were an assistant army attaché in Tel Aviv, Israel. You spent a little time there. It looks like you spent a few years there, 3 or 4 years.
That assignment was 3 years, right, in Tel Aviv, right.
Yeah. What was that like?
Well, they have a saying, there's never a dull day in Israel, and that's about the truth of it.
Wow.
Yeah, I wondered at first, I was kind of puzzled why they would pick me to be an attaché in anywhere. I was not an intelligence officer. I had very little. Well, by that time I had been an all-source intelligence analyst
Right.
for several months. But that was the total of my intelligence background. But when I got there, I began to realize why. My job involved more making assessments, collecting information and making assessments on what the Israelis were doing in the northern part of the country, vis-a-vis their neighbors.
Right.
The Palestinians had moved into South Lebanon. They had some weapons that could reach into northern Israel quite easily, especially the larger Katyusha rockets.
Right.
And they were also making ground incursions into northern Israel. And so one of the things that I could do because of my background, I had airborne, you didn't dwell on, and you shouldn't necessarily, but I was in the 82nd Airborne Division.
Yep.
In '68, and I had mechanized infantry experience. After I graduated from OCS, I went to Fort Hood and I served in a mech infantry battalion until they decided to send me to Vietnam. And then I had air mobile experience.
So you had it all.
And so forth. And I even have riverine experience. We were inserted by LCMs and air cushion vehicles. I didn't like any of that air cushion thing. But
What is that? The air cushion vehicles?
Air cushion, yeah. Do you know what the Marine LCAC is?
I've heard of it, but I don't.
Landing craft air cushion. They have a cushion around the bottom,
Right.
big old rubber cushion.
Right.
They have propeller that drives air down into it.
Right.
And it can skid across the water or any other smooth surface at very high speeds. They have one propeller to drive them
Right.
forward or reverse, and one that pumps air down into this cushion effect. And they could, the ones we had were smaller ones. The Marines have the LCAC,
Right.
which can, I don't want to get too much in the Marines here, but can transport a small tank and I think a platoon of infantry.
Wow.
Now, I have had one ride on one, and I believe it, it's big. The guy who flies it is a pilot.
Wow.
He has a pilot rating. That's what I said, wow. Anyway, let's don't get off in the Marines, but I wanted you to know that I had riverine experience too. Anyway.
So all the avenues, everything that they would be using.
I can drive by a unit deployed in the field, unless it's so well camouflaged, you can't really see what it is.
Right.
but you can see how big it is, probably.
Yeah.
There'll be telltale signs that will give you an idea of what it is.
Right.
I could do that because of my background, all the units I'd served in. I knew all about land equipment,
Yeah.
been in the artillery, mechanized infantry, straight infantry, well, you name it. So I could make assessments pretty quickly about what was taking place,
Right.
what was deployed where, and what its capabilities were, and so forth. That's when I realized why I'd been chosen.
So we were spying on them.
Well, of course.
Okay.
You think they don't spy on us?
Oh, I'm sure they do. I think they do more than
They've
spy.
they've been caught at it a number of times. But let's don't get too deep into this. I don't.
Right. Right.
You know, I don't think I'm divulging anything that is not well known.
Right. Right. And then you were you were the commander at the 8th Psychological Operations Battalion, SOCOM, there in Fort Bragg. And you went to the U.S. Army War College, 87, 88, and you researched Islamic terrorists in Boston, Massachusetts. Wow, that's well before we had the bombing there in Boston. What was the understanding of Islamic terrorists at the time? Did we know as much then as we know about them now?
Oh gosh, no. We've been forced to focus on them, you know, to know
Right.
who they are and to be prepared to fight them.
Right.
Preferably someplace else besides our homeland.
Yeah.
No, we didn't. I focused mainly on the Mujahideen
Right.
of
Okay.
Iran, but Osama bin Laden was just becoming a known factor.
Yeah.
Knowing, you know, by that I mean that he was a radical.
Right.
We had made that determination by that time. But I focused mainly on trying to understand who the extremists were,
Right.
and answer the question, at least to myself, are they a threat to the United States?
Right.
All Muslims are not. The extremists are very much a threat to the United States. And of course, we have a lot more extremist organizations now than we had then.
Right.
And we know a lot more about them. We've been forced to find out
Yeah.
who they were, where they were, and what was going on with them.
I know that bin Laden and the Mujahideen fought against the Russians in Afghanistan. But was there any Russian involvement in the Middle East with trying to promote Islamic terrorism at that time frame that you know of?
In the Middle East.
Yes.
In the Middle East, promote Islamic terrorism. None that I was aware of. No.
Okay. Yeah.
No.
I'd heard somewhere that the Russians had been involved in that early on. I was just curious if you ran into any
Well,
of that.
they may have. If there was such a thing going on, that might have been pretty close hold
Right.
intelligence information.
So you are a U.S. Army War College graduate, and then you retired. By the way, you were the chief of the U.S. Army Military Cooperation at the U.S. Embassy in Oman, supporting Desert Shield and Desert Storm. And then in '92, you retired to rank of colonel. Anything I did not cover everything because
No.
But is there anything that I didn't cover that you want to hit on in reference to this?
Well, one thing is, I noticed, and I have cause to believe what I'm saying, that younger generations are not very interested in Vietnam. Some of them are.
Right.
But not only do they not know why it was such an abysmal failure, and maybe I don't know either, but I really think I do. And one of the big reasons, if you would compare Vietnam to the amazing support that our troops got in Iraq and Afghanistan both,
Right.
from the American public, I mean.
Yeah.
And why for Vietnam there was rejection,
Yeah.
disdainful attitudes by what was greater than disdainful. It was rejection and so forth. And you ask, I've done a lot of soul searching about that, and I've done a lot of reading to make sure I'm educated about the communist threat,
Right.
then and now, of course. But it was alive and well then.
Yep.
But no, not but and we had just finished in 1955 preventing the spread of communism to the entire Korean Peninsula and probably to Japan as well, because we had stopped
Right.
the North Koreans and with the Chinese behind them,
Yeah.
supporting them. I've to some younger folks, I've asked them, what was the greatest outcome of our defeat of Japan in 1945, our final defeat of Japan in 1945? Well, the war ended, and that was a great outcome.
Right.
I said the greatest gift was handed to Mao Zedong, because the Japanese had to withdraw their military
Yeah.
from China. He was already well prepared to prevail in the struggle against Chiang Kai-shek's supporters and fighters.
Yeah. Who we eventually stopped supporting.
Yes.
Right.
So he was able to spread communism as he wished, and then to put a little puppet in North Korea and embolden him
Yeah.
to keep spreading the word. And so we had cause to, to fear communism, may be a bit too extreme, but to be wary
Right.
of their intentions. And that is, McNamara said in his book that was one of the primary motivations
Right.
for getting involved to the extent that we did in Vietnam. Now, I believe him, but the real point I want to make is the American public was never convinced that there was any threat to them. They could not visualize it. They
Right.
could not rationalize it. That war was a stupid war. It should never have been started. We shouldn't be there, and we're killing innocent people.
Right.
That was kind of what.
Well, the press didn't help
What?
any.
No, of course not. No, the press. Well, this thing called the main media, it was alive and well then, and
Right.
it still is now.
Yeah.
They promote agendas that they concoct sometimes themselves, or and anyway, so that was a real problem for me as a commander in Vietnam.
Right.
I was a commander only. I had command authority only on my second tour as a captain,
Right.
and that was my first time to have command authority. But
So did you see a difference from the first time you were there to the second time you were there?
dramatic.
And what were the big changes that you saw?
Well, the racial tensions, and I'm going to dwell on this a bit because they were very important. In 1966, they were under the surface. They were there at times, but basically under
Everybody
the
was
surface.
still green, basically.
We were getting along fine,
Right.
really. And it was an airborne unit, that gung-ho, let's
Yeah.
get the job done spirit.
Yep.
God, I love those guys. I went back in 68. Let's not lose sight of the fact that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated in April of that year.
Right.
And
Not long after that, Johnson said he wasn't going to seek re-election.
yeah. And I was in the 82nd Airborne Division at that time and dealt with riot control in Washington, D.C. and Baltimore.
Yeah.
Now, my unit did not go to Baltimore, just the district. But let me correct that. We did not deploy into the district. We were at Andrews preparing to do that, but we did not have to do that.
Okay.
Let me get that straight. But the elements of the 82nd did go into Washington, D.C. and Baltimore. Well, so that was one experience. Riot control training. All the lectures from the lawyers
Right.
about rules of engagement. And everybody was in there, all the enlisted men and all the officers, we all had to sit through these lectures.
Right.
And I could just see my career flashing before my eyes all the time. You know, when you turn a grunt loose, put him in a position and tell him, guard this facility.
Yep.
And you give him a gun and ammo.
Somebody's
You know,
going to get hurt if something goes wrong, that's for sure.
He doesn't want to die in such a case. But let me go back, you know, and so these things spilled over into Vietnam.
Right.
The militancy of some of our black citizens.
Right.
And it impacted me in several ways. I won't get into those ways unless you want me to, but my experience was that the black troops who were assigned to combat units, and I'm speaking of my entire battalion.
Right.
That was my field of view.
Right.
My battalion.
Yeah.
And in my company, they did not go out in groups attacking white soldiers
Right.
or white officers. And basically the reason for that is because they were part of a combat unit that deployed out on operations.
Right.
They would want to be real careful about committing
Yeah.
these acts against their fellow soldiers, their fellow combat troops. That might not end well for them.
Right. But the
They
support
knew-
units,
Support units were different.
yeah.
And I had one of my medics was beaten severely and kicked in the head. When they called me to the dispensary, he was having seizures. They were trying to give him drugs to stop the seizures.
What happened? What was the scenario? Just wrong place, wrong time?
He was coming back from we had a little PX in the division,
Yeah.
and we had a 2-day stand down, and he was coming back from the PX. A group of black soldiers attacked him and beat him up and kicked him in the head. He was in pretty bad shape when he was evacuated. And 2 lieutenants suffered pretty much the same fate. And there were fragging incidents.
Right.
I read a book where the guy did research and concluded that there were about 99 fragging incidents. And I was concerned about that because I had a couple of troops that were very militant, very anti-war, and one of them was he had volunteered, and I took him to task over it, but I ended up recommending him for court-martial because he disobeyed a lawful order
Right.
from his platoon leader and from me. But when you have to deal with disciplinary problems, sometimes an unruly soldier can take it upon himself to rectify things by his standards with an explosive device or something.
Yeah.
That's why I may have written in there, I'm not sure, but I at times felt safer
Yes.
deployed out
there
in the
than-
jungle
Yeah.
than I did back in the rear.
But it was mostly the support soldiers that you were concerned about.
Yes, sir.
Okay. But now you were the second tour. You were a company commander, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, for over 6 months, and then I went to battalion operations as the assistant operations officer, but I didn't stay there very long. The brigade commander pulled me up to the brigade to be his air operations assistant operations officer for air operations.
Okay. So let's talk about some of the other things. I mean, you've got 2 different books. Your first book was published in '06. It was self-published. Your Sons, My Soldiers, Our War in Vietnam, and this was a commander struggle, published by Author House in 2005. Still available on Amazon. And your upcoming book, it's a memoir. It's different than a lot of memoirs because it's, number one, you have short stories, and then you break it down into 2 different categories. And one of the categories is bizarre things that happen in war zones and when things go wrong in combat. So let's just start with wherever you want to on that, because this sounds pretty interesting.
Well, I'm laughing because bizarre things that happen in a war zone. I have several such stories there. They're more about things that go wrong in combat, and they do. Oh, they do. There's a lot of humor in bizarre things.
Right.
There's a tremendous amount of humor. I won't go into any particular story unless you want. I'll give you some titles.
Okay.
The orangutan caper.
Well, you got to tell that story.
Well, monkey see, monkey do.
Okay.
The Claxton fruitcake caper. Claxton fruitcake.
Okay.
You wouldn't think there's anything humorous in that, but the way things went, there's a lot of humor. And there's one. Let me see. What is the title of this one?
Now, these are things you actually experienced while you're over there.
Oh, totally. These are my experiences. A lot of bull. A water buffalo bull
Right.
that we did not know was near us. We were on a patrol,
Right.
single file, cutting our way through the jungle. This is on my first tour, and he attacked us.
Oh, wow.
Knocked down one of my soldiers and injured him severely. So, and he kept coming back for more. And at first, several of us were shooting at him, and I said, hold it, cease fire. Nobody shoots but me. I was afraid we'd shoot each other.
Right.
He was running after us, coming after somebody, and
Yeah.
by that time we knew what to do. We'd duck behind a tree, and he would go and come back, maybe after the same guy even. So a lot of the shots that I was able to shoot at him were straight on, and those M16 rounds were just bouncing off his head.
Yeah.
And they actually would ricochet off his hide in some places.
Oh, wow.
They might split him a little bit, but they wouldn't go in there. I shot over 40 rounds at him before I dropped him.
Wow.
I did. I'm not sure they all hit him,
Yeah.
but pretty much most of them did, I know. But finally, I was able to blind him.
Yeah.
I was shooting for his eyes. When I blinded him, then he was if he could smell us, he'd come toward us. But he'd run into a tree or something, you know.
Right.
He's blind.
How long did this last?
Probably 15 minutes. You know, when he would run through us, I had to stop shooting.
Yeah.
And wait for him to clear, you know. And
Right.
sometimes he wouldn't go far enough away for me to shoot safely.
Yeah.
Then he'd run back through. And anyway, so when he was far enough away that I could shoot at him, I would. But that's just one of the stories. That's a bizarre thing that happens in a war zone.
What about the orangutan?
Well, and early on in my tour, you know, now this was '66. I was a motor platoon leader, and we air assaulted into an area in the Bongson area of the Central Highlands, and my platoon set up much of the time with the Battalion Forward Command Post, or TOC, Tactical Operations Center. And they moved a 105 battery in with us.
Right.
And our weapons platoon, which had 50 calibers and 106 millimeter recoilless rifles, they would go in with us. We didn't take the recoilless rifles all that much, but they'd take a couple of 50 calibers.
Right.
And I was glad they did. But we had to be part of the security.
Right.
So did the artillery battery. It was just a battery. And it was a strain on us of sorts, but we had to do our fire mission work and be prepared to support anybody who needed it.
Yeah.
Same time, but I put my platoon leader and I, platoon sergeant and I, put 2 new guys on one of our positions, not thinking much about it. Malaria was a big problem, and malaria took as many of us out as the enemy did.
Oh, wow.
Believe me. Anyway, new guys. So nighttime comes, and about 10 o'clock, one of these guys fired his claymore and fired a whole bunch of M16 rounds, and it hit a handheld flare. And my platoon sergeant and I ran part of the way to him and then crawled the rest of the way. There was 2 of them, and, you know, what's going on? Well, I saw 2 VC. One of them had a pack on, and he was carrying an AK-47 rifle. Okay, I said, I saw no green tracers. Did they fire at you? No, I didn't hear anything. Well, they kind of disappeared and things quieted down, and I went and reported to my company commander, who was also there. And he reported to the battalion commander, that it was a possible probe.
Right.
So we heightened our alert status, and I put some more men on the perimeter. And everything was quiet until about 1 o'clock in the morning. It was the same routine. They both opened up, both the guys in this position. They fired both their claymores. And I told my platoon sergeant, well, there are no rounds coming in here. This may be big. This may be probing indeed to find out where we are. But by this time, they know.
Right.
They know very well where we are. Okay. Yeah. So I had to report to the battalion commander what went on. Then I knew it was coming. He said, okay, you sweep that area. You find out what's going on out there. These guys said they hit one of them, and you better see blood or something. So we call in 105 artillery illumination.
Right.
So because we didn't have that many handheld flares. And their illumination was better, as you know. Okay, so we started a sweep, and lo and behold, we find 2 dead orangutans. Poor guys. I surmised that they were trying to get back to their nesting area.
Yeah.
We were on a knoll, a big grassy knoll.
Yeah.
And they must have been off feeding somewhere. They try to nest in the same area.
Right.
I mean, I read up to find this out. I didn't know about orangutans. And anyway, we actually buried them. I was ordered to bury them.
Full honors, no doubt.
One of my troops was a platoon clown, and I just said a few words. It's too bad this happened to these nice animals, and he spoke up and he said, I'd like to say a few words, Lieutenant. I said, okay. He says, well, how does this go? Ashes to ashes and dust to dust and fuzz that was. Fuzz that was, oh my God. We had to crack up. It was just too bad. But anyway, that's one of the bizarre things that happened. Just one.
Yeah.
There are many others, and I had more of the stories about when things go wrong in combat, believe you me.
Let's go to some, and obviously we're not going to cover everything that's in your book,
No,
but
we can't.
I do want to hit.
We can't.
Let's talk about when things go wrong.
Well, the operating environment has a tremendous influence on how things go for you.
Right.
And the Delta is an incredibly punishing place to be, because if we're not in a stand down mode, if we weren't, we were wet.
Right.
Our feet were always wet.
Yep.
We carried dry socks. We would change socks, put on dry socks, take 3 steps,
And they're wet.
and our feet are wet again. So I had a lot of immersion foot,
Yep.
a lot of fungus. Fungus was a terror for all of us. And that was just part of it. But there were lots of canals in our area of operation. So if you're going cross country on foot, you have to deal with those canals. They were very dangerous. These canals, the Mekong Delta is so close to the Pacific Ocean there that the river's influenced by the tides.
Yeah.
And it will back the water up in a big way in our area of operation because we were so close to the ocean. And the river was so large. And more than once, snipers killed some of my men. And they were after me, anybody around a radio.
Right.
Oh man, and I had men killed more than once by snipers, but they never fired on us until they knew they could escape.
Right.
I never was able to exact my revenge on a sniper. Never was. I'm kind of generalizing here a bit. One of my my policy about, we were, the majority of our casualties were from booby traps. The majority, yeah.
Bungee sticks and whatnot.
Well, no. They didn't do punji stakes very much. They had a few punji pits in areas that had high ground,
Right.
but there were not that many punji stakes, no. But a lot of our booby traps were made with grenades, even U.S. grenades.
Right.
Don't ask me how they got that many. I don't know, but they did. Maybe by overrunning ARVN units or something.
Yeah.
But my policy was you never pick up or move a booby trap.
Yeah.
Leave it alone. If you think we'll come back through that area at some
Mark
point,
it.
put another grenade, pull the pin on a real grenade, an American grenade, put it down beside it, and you got 4 seconds to get away from it.
Right.
They were not all grenades. Toward the end of my command tour, the Viet Cong got a lot wiser about their booby trapping and began to, they found unexploded ordnances,
Yeah.
105 and 155, that they would put in a tree and use an electrical detonator
Yep.
in the back of it. And boy, I feared those things. Oh my goodness. But one day on an operation, one of my troops, and he was a good troop. I liked him. He was a nice young man with a very difficult background, but he was a good young man. For reasons that he's never explained to me, because I haven't seen him since that time, picked up a grenade that was booby trapped. You know a grenade. He's holding it by the hand, holding the handle shut.
Right.
And when his platoon leader called me and told me, I said, "Get him away from everybody." And he said, "Don't worry, he's already 50 meters from us." I made him get away from my platoon. I said, "Oh my God, okay, tell him not to throw it." Boom! It went off. They had taken the powder
Right.
out of the little 4-second powder train,
Yeah.
and it was an instantaneous explosion. And it went off right at his fingertips. He was right-handed. I know it took these 2 fingers off. I could see his hand in the evac hospital, but I couldn't see his face very well. He got shrapnel down. He was looking up at it, so his steel pot was about here.
Right.
He got shrapnel down in his face, in his lungs, and in his abdomen,
Oh, wow.
and in his
Yeah.
thighs. We called medevac immediately, and there was a medevac plane that was inbound after making a pickup, and he heard us calling for a medevac, and contacted us right away and said, identified himself and said, "I'm about a minute or 2 from you, given your location. Pop smoke, and I can be there very quickly." So we hadn't yet cleared an area for him to land.
Right.
I told him, "You got to hold off to give us time to make sure that area is cleared. Don't want you shot up."
Right.
He came in and circled around just for a minute or 2, hit the ground, and by this time they'd carted him over there and put him in the medevac. Now, there wasn't, the medic who triaged him said, "There's no way he's going to make it." He was beginning to turn blue. His lungs filled up with blood.
Yeah.
Well, just a minute. Let me get a drink of water.
Yep. That's fine. And anything you don't want to talk about, that's fine.
Well, I don't mind talking about it so much, but it gets to me a bit. Well, excuse me, that young man survived only because a doctor, a surgeon, met him at the helicopter,
Oh, good.
inserted some kind of drain thing they have that I never saw.
Right.
He described it to me, to begin draining his lungs
Wow.
as they carted him into the hospital.
You know, that I think that was the first war that we had as much usage of helicopters. I know we had some in Korea,
Yeah.
but I mean Vietnam, there was a lot of people, and of course even later there would have been a lot more casualties, for instance, in Iraq and Afghanistan if it wasn't for the helicopters. And I know that was big in Vietnam as well, as, you know, the medevacs. And you know, glad we got them.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, thank God for medevac. Oh, man, there's a whole lot of us who wouldn't be here without them. Absolutely, yeah. And they took a lot of risks.
Oh yeah. Have you stayed in touch with are you still in touch with any of the people you served with?
Yes, we've had annual reunions, and we decided at one point to have them only every 2 years, but that didn't work very well.
Right.
Too many people were dying off in between, it seems.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have an association. Now this is the 31st Infantry Regimental Association, but there's a First Cav Association that I attended once.
Okay.
It was just being a junior officer at that level. It didn't have much meaning for me.
Right.
But our company organized and has been having company level reunions annually, but I stopped going to those because frankly I don't know anybody anymore.
Right.
No, it's true. The senior NCOs that we had in that battalion or in that division, the First Cav Division in
Right.
66,
Yeah.
a lot of them some were World War II
Yeah. And Korea veterans.
and Korea veterans.
Yep. Yep.
The officers, same. A lot of them were also Korean veterans. They were too young for World War II, but
Yep.
they were Korean veterans, and so they're not around anymore. I don't know hardly of a one of them that is still living.
Yeah. I think just to be a Vietnam vet, you had to be probably early 70s at this point in time. If you were in Vietnam, you're probably at least in your early 70s.
I don't know, but some of those guys had 3 tours. They joined the Army right at the end of the war, of World War II, I understand.
Right.
So they didn't get much combat,
Yeah.
but they are World War II veterans. They got on just in time to say that they are. They're all good people, though, you know.
So, just looking down at some of the things here, and we'll talk about this a little bit. But, you know, the bonds with combat. So the guys you served with. You talk about it just a little bit now, but
Yeah, well, it's very unique,
right.
and it's lifelong, as far as I'm concerned, and I still have contact with some of my officers and my enlisted, and some of my NCOs, but so many of them have passed on,
Right.
and others are in pretty poor health.
Yeah.
I'm blessed. I mean, to be here. I'm not in great health. No, let's not, stretch that all that far. But
You still get out and hunt and fish, right?
yeah, I do. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we talked about this when we first started. You mentioned, okay, you know, the communist threat. And of course, during that time, the Cold War, you had the Soviet Union, and by that time, China. And I think that's one of the reasons we ended up in Vietnam, because, well, we realized we'd already lost China. And so, and I think people understood then that there was this big contest, you know, between the communist and the free world, so to speak. And I know even when I came up in high school in the late 70s, early 80s, they still taught us about communism. They still taught us about why it was bad and why America was good and why our Constitution meant something and the freedoms that we had. I don't think they teach that much anymore. I think the communists are still a threat. I think a lot of what we see in our streets today is communism. But going back to that time, that's what McNamara said we were there for, to stop the spread of communism. Okay. And I don't doubt that's what we were there for. But now let's talk about how we attempted to carry it out, or whatever, because you did have here costly mistakes, logic and decision making, victories and defeats. That's so. let's kind of hit it from that angle.
Absolutely. Well, how we went about it. There were rules of engagement, of course.
Right.
They didn't. Well, one thing we couldn't do was to pursue the enemy across a border.
The North Vietnam.
Then,
Right.
no, the Viet Cong and the North Vietnamese.
Right.
Now, in the Central Highlands, we fought the North Vietnamese army a lot,
Yeah.
and the Viet Cong to some extent. But there was a much greater population in South Vietnam, in the southern part of South Vietnam.
Yeah.
There was a sparse population there in the Central Highlands, mainly coastal, and some of the bigger cities, like if you want to call Pleiku a city, it was a city, and
Right.
but the coastal areas had more people than any of the Central Highlands areas. We used to recon by fire with 105 artillery. Yeah, we would walk it ahead of us. That's pretty good stuff.
Yeah.
But you couldn't do that in the Delta.
Right.
But I think the rules of engagement that affected that war effort more so applied to the Air Force, where they could bomb, when they could bomb, and what they could bomb.
I mean, I've seen video of them going over and, you know, bombing, dropping napalm, just looks like they obliterated everything. But that doesn't really give me any context for how often that was allowed or used or the situations. But you're saying that the Air Force was actually pretty restricted.
Well, they were the North Vietnamese, and there in Hanoi, they put hospital Red Crosses on their
everything.
on the buildings where they were storing SAM missiles and various other things that were used against us. And
Right.
now, if what I've read is accurate, the military commanders wanted to take them out, and the civilian component said, no, you can't bomb that. That was, but also our ground troop commanders at the higher level, they wanted to be able to pursue.
Right.
Now they did, eventually, some of that happened, but not enough to disrupt the flow of men and materiel, the weapons and fighting material into South Vietnam. The Ho Chi Minh Trail was one of those
Right.
great places, and we interdicted them quite a lot. I know we did.
But it was pretty extensive. So
But doggone it,
yeah.
they were very perseverant.
Yeah.
They were, to their credit.
So pretty much the whole time there, the ground troops were limited from pursuing, and they couldn't really. I mean, they couldn't go into North Vietnam,
No,
and they were even were they limited to a certain distance from the border, or they were just limited
No.
in general? You don't pursue.
you don't pursue across the border.
Okay.
We did pursue to the border quite a lot.
Right.
But in the South, on my second tour, because it was so populated, it was sometimes out on operations, you couldn't rely on artillery
Right.
getting to you in the time to help you out. Because the authority chain was so lengthy, and it included provincial chiefs and what have you, to get approval for artillery fire in some areas.
So what's the longest it could take? I mean, so if your platoon is out and hey, you need artillery, how long?
Maybe 10 or 15 minutes before you could get it.
That's a long time when you're getting when they're right there on you. Wow.
Yeah. Mhm. That was a factor, and for us down there, and it was exceedingly difficult, as every guerrilla war is, as every insurgency is,
Right.
because you don't always know who the enemy is.
Right.
And one day he's out, a farmer following his water buffalo, plowing his rice paddy, and then the next day he's setting booby traps and firing Katyusha rockets into the division camp. Stuff like that.
Yeah. Was there ever a overall plan that everybody understood that how we're going to win this, or was it just going to be attrition? Was it just going to go? We're just going to we're going to stay here until they quit, with no real plan to make them quit. Is that
Well,
accurate?
the idea, basically the idea had to be to attrit them until they were no longer functional. But,
How do you do that in a situation like that?
well, the typical successful insurgency succeeds only because there is a neighboring country or two where they can use
Right.
to supply themselves.
And they use Laos, Cambodia, and I think there was another one.
Mainly just Laos and Cambodia,
Okay.
right? I don't know of another one. I mean, Thailand's didn't help them much with respect to moving men and weapons.
So, what do you think we could have? First off, do you think it was it worth? Even though I understand the goal was to stop the spread of communism, was it worth the effort stopping it spreading in Vietnam, just Vietnam? Was it? Had we been successful, would it even been worth it? Had we been successful?
That's a question I don't think I'm prepared to answer. I don't think I've. It seems that the answer to that would be no. Unless there was more there that was useful strategically
Right.
that I didn't see. You know, I was at the low end of the totem pole.
Right.
You know, lieutenants and captains still are they're the doers, and everybody else are the thinkers. All the others are the
Right.
thinkers and planners, right? So I'm not at all convinced that was true. That it was.
That it would have been worth it even if we'd been successful.
Yeah. I think it was as much aimed at China as anything else. You know, you want to support these attacks on democracy and people who have freedoms
Right.
and force communism on them, and well, we're going to put a stop to that. We didn't.
No, and then right after the war, what do? We go meet with China, and that's always galled me as I got old enough to understand. Like, wait a minute, because now I used to read a lot about Vietnam. My dad and both of his brothers served there, and so I've read quite a bit about it. And you know, you get different views from. But one of the things that I always read was we were really leery. We did not want China to do what China did during the Korean War, and so we really wanted. We were, you know, hey, we don't want to do that. We don't want to provoke them. So you're already going in there with one hand behind your back because you're worried about China getting involved. But then when it's all said and done, I mean, 1972, we didn't really have the treaty till 73, but we're talking with the Chinese in 72 to use them as a counterbalance against the Soviets.
Mm-hmm. That was Nixon.
Yeah, Nixon and Kissinger.
Yeah.
So, I mean, did at the time, did that, for people like you, did you like, well, wait a minute, what are we doing here?
I tried to shut Vietnam out of my mind for so long.
Right.
In 72, I was in Arabic language training
Yeah.
in Monterey, California. And,
Right.
I mean, we're still in Army uniform, but there's not much Army there,
Yeah.
you know, in that institute.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I was, you know, to the extent that I could, I was keeping abreast of things pretty well, but it was a lost cause. And it was horrible to lose so many good American citizens
Right.
in pursuit of that.
Right. Right.
Over 50,000, and you know the 1st Cav Division lost over 5,000 killed.
Wow, I did not know
The
that.
9th Division was a little over 2,000.
Wow.
And a lot of us, we were killed with booby traps.
I knew they were pretty prominent, but I didn't know that the casualty numbers were that high with the booby traps. I mean, I know obviously it's something to be worried about when you're over there, and you see the movies, and there's always a booby trap in the movie, but I had no idea of the numbers that were killed from that.
Well, if I could draw a contrast, now we had our problems, we had our threats. The enemy was good at what he did.
Right.
He was good at his craft, but he's primarily Viet Cong. You move north, especially far north. Those guys were hit with artillery, North Vietnamese artillery.
Right.
We never had artillery fired on us, and we had mortars fired on us.
Yeah.
A 120 mortar will get your attention, buddy.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, even a 60 or an 82 will.
Right.
So I mean, it's kind of the same, but it was not often,
Right.
because the only way to move a 120 around for the Viet Cong was by water. So we spent a lot of our time, and that's brought out in when things go wrong in combat, a lot of our time ambushing canals.
Oh, okay.
It would be platoon ambush, whole company ambush, or I'd take my whole company where one canal flowed into another, we would ambush them both.
Would they move that big of a convoy at a time? The enemy, would they?
It wasn't a convoy. No, I think the biggest, the maximum number of sampans we shot up in one ambush was, I think it was 5. And they had heavy weapons on there
Oh, wow.
and ammo on some of the sampans. You know what a sampan is,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
right.
Okay. Hollowed out log.
Right.
All right. So they couldn't just, fire. I mean, of course, the North Vietnamese, I know they probably had restrictions on the amount of ammo that they
Right.
could use on, for any one purpose to make sure they had a reserve. But
Yeah.
I know some of the Marines, my Marine friends, they were fired on almost every day with artillery.
Wow.
They would fire counter battery, but they could, pull these guns back into a cave or a cavern or a hole or something.
Well, like the siege of Khe Sanh, I mean, that was a long siege. That was, I think that was primarily Marines,
Yeah.
but it took them a while to break through to put an end to all that.
Yeah. Yep. Well, see, we didn't. Now in the Central Highlands, that was different. They could get pack howitzers in there fairly easily on pack animals,
Right.
like water buffalo and elephants. I don't think they used elephants that much,
Yeah.
but they used water buffalo a lot. So when we found a stray water buffalo, a wild one, or a stray one,
Right.
in the woods,
Took care of it.
we dusted him off. Yep. Now, if you wouldn't mind, let's talk a bit about I'll call it my second career.
Sure.
I mentioned that I was in Arabic language training in Monterey, California in '72.
Yep.
Well, that language, I was ordered to do that against my will with a subsequent assignment to Saudi Arabia
Yeah.
as an advisor to the Saudi infantry school. I do not think that I was the best qualified for that, but I was going to be the assistant advisor.
Right.
Major, the advisor was lieutenant colonel. That started my Arabic speaking career. Well, after that assignment, it was a 2-year assignment. In July of '75, then I came back from Saudi Arabia to the Army Command and General Staff College at Fort Leavenworth. At that time, my assignment officer in Washington, he and I talked a bit about future assignments, and he said, you need a second specialty or skill. You can't all be S3s, you can't be XOs at brigade level.
Right.
You can't all do that. There aren't that many spaces. So you need an alternate specialty. So he says, you're a shoe-in for a foreign area specialty. You've got area knowledge, area experience, you speak Arabic, you tested well in it. You go into the FAO, it's called FAO, Foreign Area Officer Program, and that will be a great secondary for you. I said, okay. I said, well, what about infantry assignments? Don't worry. Don't worry. We will alternate assignments for you to keep you current. That was a big lie. It was a big lie.
Your recruiter told you a lie, huh?
Well, he's not a real, well,
I know.
yeah, my assignment officer. Anyway,
Right.
I agreed to it,
Yep.
but I didn't quite understand all the training I had to have. And it was good training and increased my knowledge of Middle Eastern issues and affairs big time. By the time I finished, I went through a failed course at the 1st Special Operations Command there at Bragg.
Yep.
It was just a 6-month course. And then later I got a master's, and I could finish the master's in 1 year in majoring in Middle East studies with a concentration in the Arabic language. So that definitely enhanced my knowledge of the language and of Middle Eastern affairs, especially from a political point of view,
Right.
a political science point of view, because a lot of the courses were loaded with political science. And then from there, let me see, that was, I was assigned to the Defense Intelligence Agency as an all-source intelligence analyst, which was very eye-opening for me. I don't want to dwell on that too much, but I want to move on through this career in the Middle East, if you will, second career. Then I was nominated to be assistant military attaché in Tel Aviv, and everybody and his brother had to approve it, and they did miraculously. Although I had a very good background as an infantryman.
Right.
I mean, I was a well-qualified infantryman. And so part of the training program that a military attaché gets is language training.
Right.
So my wife and I both were offered, well, I was assigned to the Foreign Service Institute in Rosslyn, Virginia, where they have Hebrew training. And my wife was allowed to attend also.
Really?
But they made it a point to put us in different classrooms, and I'm glad.
Yeah.
But, excuse me, I did well in that. And I did very well in Arabic. I was the distinguished graduate of that Hebrew class, and I aced out 2 Jewish guys from the State Department and a Jewish lady.
Wow.
I did better than all of them. But of course, I already spoke Arabic quite well,
Right.
and I read it and wrote it. So Hebrew grammar was a cakewalk for me. It's very similar, but it's not nearly as complicated as Arabic is. Not nearly. So anyway, and then I went through the attaché course, learning how to be a friendly spy, sort of.
Right.
I won't get into any detail here. Nobody else needs to know all that. And then off to Tel Aviv. And we enjoyed that a good bit of the time. Learned a whole lot about other nations, and because other countries had attaché elements there as well in their embassies. Not all, but some. And then after that, that was 83, that ended. I was selected for battalion command. Not an infantry battalion either. 8th PSYOP, you've already talked about
Yeah.
it.
SOCOM.
Yeah, SOCOM, you got it. That was 2 years.
That was probably a rough 2 years. That was probably the roughest 2 years, probably mentally the roughest 2 years of your time, right?
I was selected for full colonel. You know, I almost turned it down. I was so disillusioned.
Wow.
Because it was such an awkward assignment for me.
Right.
I was very disillusioned. But I was promoted to colonel, and they assigned me again in a Middle East related position down in U.S. Central Command at MacDill Air Force Base in Tampa, Florida. And I was the chief of the political military division in the J5 Directorate.
Wow.
Well, I mean, it's where I needed to be. with my Middle Eastern background and experience and knowledge.
Right.
It was a good place for me. I thank God I didn't get into plans. Those poor guys worked around the clock. When we were escorting the Kuwaiti tankers, can you remember that time?
Yeah.
85, 87?
Yeah.
We worked 7 days a week, at least 12 hours a day.
Oh, wow.
I'm not joking you. It was an unaccompanied tour in the United States. I never could plan to do anything. I mean, I could plan to do it, but
Yeah, it wasn't going to happen.
forget it. Anyway, let's move on from there. Then we're looking at 87. While I was there, I did a short stint in Bahrain. The U.S. Central Command at that time had a FHE, Forward Headquarters Element, and I had access. The Navy stored documents for me, classified stuff, in Bahrain, and I had access to a lot of documents that told me what I had to do if we had an emergency that involved the deployment of the remainder of the Central Command headquarters to that region.
Right.
And daunting task. I'm glad I didn't have to do that. But so that was only 3 months. Then 86, that same period, I did a small stint in East Africa. My target was Somalia, and I started in Djibouti and went into Somalia and spent several days there making an assessment. I won't get into what it was, and then we went to Kenya and flew out of Kenya to Britain.
You've been everywhere.
But anyway, that was another eye-opener for me. So that was 86. At the end of 87, I was selected for attendance at the Army War College.
Yep.
And I had to get into a little holding pattern first, and then, but instead of, I was offered a chance to, instead of attending the Army War College at Carlisle, to spend that year attached to the Harvard Middle East Studies Center as a visiting Middle Eastern scholar. Now, I don't want to claim that title,
Right.
because that's perhaps a bit more than I deserve, but that was my title. That's how I was able to do all the research I did in Islamic fundamentalism while I was there. I delved into it, really enjoyed it.
And that's probably why you ended up being in charge in '89 as chief of the U.S. Office of Military Cooperation at the embassy, supporting Desert Storm and Desert Shield. I'm sure that probably had a factor in it.
Well, the Army was going to get its utilization out of me, and they offered me that same position in the UAE or Oman, and I chose Oman. And I'm kind of glad I did, because it was a very huge learning experience, and you would not believe the many tasks I had when Desert Shield kicked off, when Saddam Hussein's forces
Right.
invaded Kuwait and ousted the Kuwaiti government and took over the whole country. I had no idea. I mean, I had a good idea that I knew that I had a lot of duties that would befall me.
Right.
I was a U.S. Central Command representative in that country.
Right.
And so the two-star general was my boss, my military boss in that job. The ambassador was my State Department boss in that job. And
Wow.
it was an amazing tour, but I was the right man. I fundamentally believe in the right place at the right time. And so was General Schwarzkopf.
So I'm sure you met him more than once.
Oh gosh, yeah, he came down there 3 times.
Were all the meetings nice and calm and everything was good with Schwarzkopf, or did you see him in action?
I did attend some meetings with him because I was I hosted him as a full colonel in
Right.
embassy, I hosted him.
Yeah.
There were some meetings I did not attend. I never saw anything contentious.
Right. Well, there was
the-
no contention. It was his way.
Well,
Pretty much, right?
but the Omanis respected the hell out of him.
Yeah.
And the Omanis were very forthcoming in assisting us in some vital ways.
Right.
They made, I think, 2 wings of their hospital available to CENTCOM right at the last minute before the kinetic started
Right.
in January. He requested it, and it didn't take them long to approve it. It was awesome.
Good.
And the support that could be provided to the fighting troops from Oman were very substantial. A lot of air refueling took place out of Oman
Okay.
for even ships on carriers, or fighters on carriers sometimes.
Right.
B-52s flying in from, let's just say, southern directions.
Yeah.
They would refuel coming out sometimes, or they would refuel going in and hang around and go back in and refuel again. And man, they were busy. It was, anyway, I won't be any more specific about
Right.
what was there,
That's fine.
but they had a very significant refueling capability. And the Omanis were what we had in the cooperation agreement we had with the Omanis was very, very, very supportive of the war effort. Let me just generalize.
That Desert Storm, after Vietnam, you had some pretty lean years there in the military, and then Reagan gets back in, starts rebuilding the military. I came in '83, and I know we trained a lot. I mean, I was in Germany at First Duty Station, and everybody trained. And I've always heard that, and I understand the Iraqi army was not what we thought it was. Okay, it was not the 10-foot tall giant that we thought it was. But I'd always kind of heard that kind of, it showed that we had rebuilt after Vietnam as far as our training, morale, so on and so forth. Do you agree with that, or do you think maybe that's a little overstatement?
Well, we did know, and it was factual that Saddam Hussein had a pretty good armored force. But the big problem with dictatorships,
They trust nobody.
and that includes absolute monarchies.
Yeah.
You know very well that an absolute monarchy means it's a dictatorship.
Yeah.
Call it what you want, right?
Yeah.
And I was able to observe up close and personal about a lot of these things. I have a lot of stories I could tell you that there's no time here for that, but the mere fact that these let's say any dictatorship, but let's talk about the Middle East in particular. Iraq, Saudi Arabia is an absolute monarchy. The Sultanate of Oman was, I'm not sure it still is. They delegate responsibility without authority.
Right.
The Israelis don't do that. They are smart enough to realize that their non-commissioned officers are valuable.
Right.
They can accept responsibility. They can exercise good judgment.
Yeah.
And they are leaned on to do that. And we do, or we used to.
Right. Yeah.
We used to. And if I have one big, huge complaint about my time as a company commander in Vietnam, is I did not have my E7s. I had one. All of my slots were filled, and they were someplace else doing duties for the sergeant major. Don't think I didn't complain about this. My battalion commander complained about it.
So
And
that was brigade that was allowing that?
The division commander was behind it. He gave the sergeant major the authority to do that. I did get one other E7N.
Right.
I won't say his name here, but I don't like him. he was in E7, had been in the 1st Cav Division, first tour. Man, I was so happy. I almost hugged him when I got him. I said, gosh, I'm glad to see you. I look forward to working with you. And God, the troops need you, man.
Yeah.
Within 2 weeks, he pulled out a hip pocket profile on his ears. And he couldn't be out where he couldn't keep his ears clean. And I lost him.
And
He
now,
was gone.
so your other platoon sergeants, the E6 is filling in. Were they? I mean, they didn't have enough. They didn't have that much experience in, right? They were just.
We had the shake and bakes, remember?
Yeah, I knew. I'd heard of
very
them. Yes.
good people,
Right. Yeah, but
very smart people,
yeah,
but they lacked everything that an E7 platoon sergeant brings.
yeah,
And that's wisdom, that's experience. He is not only a good leader, but he is also a good advisor, a good mentor.
right.
And the troops lean on good sergeants like that, senior sergeants like that a lot.
Yeah,
And I needed them. At times, I had an E6 staff sergeant as a acting platoon leader.
right.
I had no E7. My platoon leader was dead or wounded. And he was the most senior of those guys.
Wow.
I know it's shameful.
And it's not like we were hurting for troops overall. We weren't hurting for numbers overall.
Mm-mm.
Any other books planned for the future?
Oh, I have several. Oh, yes. I mean, well, one is a children's story. I'm working on that now with a grandson. He's the illustrator.
Maybe use the orangutans in that?
No, this is about a squirrel.
Okay.
And every child that knows what a squirrel is loves a squirrel.
Right.
But I also have it's a historical fiction that I've written about that tour in Oman.
Uh-huh.
Well, after the kinetics started, Saddam Hussein put out an assassination order on all the U.S. ambassador and all his senior staff,
Right.
including me by name and position.
Really?
My wife was there,
Oh, wow.
and I wanted to send her home because the Iraqi ambassador lived two houses down from me. And he and I had had many conversations in Arabic and English.
Right.
He liked to try to get things out of me, information. He didn't, but he tried. But I was really scared. I was frightened for my wife. I was frightened for me.
I bet.
I didn't know that kind of fear. I didn't. And the ambassador,
Especially in another country.
the ambassador would not let me send her home. He would not. And he and I had some pretty,
Did he say why he wouldn't let you send her home?
yes. Yes, I can, okay, do we have time?
Yeah.
Okay.
We could,
It won't take long, okay. He'd been an ambassador before.
Right.
And he had, by letting people leave, he had created panic.
Ah.
Now, this embassy had under a memorandum of understanding with Britain, was obligated to evacuate British nationals, any of them who were there,
Right.
along with us. And he said no. Well, he made me he recalled me from my mid-tour leave to come back. I left my wife in the States with our understanding that I would bring her to Oman when I was sure that the threat
Right.
could not reach us.
Yeah.
I never imagined that would be the threat.
Yeah.
But also the Omani intelligence operatives told us that Saddam Hussein had dispatched 4 new people to his embassy
Wow.
coming through their airport, and that what do they call that bag? There's a package that embassies can excuse me, ship into a country through
Right.
all of its inspection mechanisms, but they can't open it.
Yeah.
I forget what it's called. Diplomatic pouch. That's it. But they had X-rayed it, and it had guns and ammo and money in it. They thought it was U.S. dollars. So that just really scared me. And I figured they'd try to get us on the road. That's the easiest way, the quickest way, and they can escape much of the time. So I told her, from this point forward, we cannot ride in the same vehicle to go anywhere.
Right.
If they get me, they'll kill you too. Anybody else in the car.
Yeah.
So that, anyway, it was very stressful for her and for me.
So you got some stories to tell.
And there were other things that happened that I won't get into now.
Right.
That just made it worse. And he still would not let me evacuate her. No, I was very upset about it.
Oh, I bet.
As you can imagine.
Well, so you still got a lot of stories to tell then.
I do.
And we can't, there's no way we can cover you in an hour and a half, but hey, I do appreciate you coming on. Any closing thoughts? Anything that you want to say that you haven't said?
Well, I would like to say that and your Army experience might have been the same way, but the Army was good to me and good for me most of the time. I can't say that war is anything that one would seek out,
Right.
but it's necessary sometimes to protect us and our way of life, and I would still support it today.
Yeah, we have to have an army. We have to have a military. I mean, it's a bad world out there. That's not going to change. That doesn't mean that we necessarily agree with the way our military has always been used, or in some cases abused, but you have to have it.
We need all our services,
Yeah.
including now a space command.
Yep, absolutely. Well, hey, thanks again for coming on. I'd love to have you back. You put out another book, or if you just want to come back on and talk some more, we can cover, because I know I didn't do you justice in an hour and a half, okay? But
Don't get me started on my stories, because I have a lot.
We'll do that. We'll have you come back, and
I do have a lot of stories.
We'll do that. If you're interested, we'll do it.
Many of them are not in print yet, but maybe I can get them in print. But thanks a lot. I appreciate the time to talk about myself and my military experience. Thank you.
Well, I'm glad to have it. And your book is on Amazon. That's your. Okay, this is
my first book is on Amazon and at Author House.
At Author House.
It can be ordered there as well.
Yeah.
A better price at Author House.
Okay.
I'm serious. Yes.
So those are the books, and you have a website as well, georgermauldin.com. And
I have another book. That other book is coming out.
the
one.
The tour, about the 2 tours.
The memoir, yes.
Yes, that'll be out. And when's that supposed to be out?
I'm hoping they hinted at getting it out before the end of the year.
Okay, good.
I'm hoping they do. I really am. Yeah.
Yeah, Amazon is advertising October sometime. That's what Amazon is advertising at.
Well, maybe Amazon knows more than I do. They've been coy about trying to, give me anything specific.
Yeah.
Going back, or earlier this year, I think it was February.
Right.
We started this process. They said, well, about a year to 15 months.
Now wait a minute though, but it was finished.
Well,
when was the book finished?
No, this book, the memoir is not finished.
Oh, okay.
That's the one that should be finished.
Right.
I hope before the end of the year.
Okay.
Now, but initially they said 12 to 15 months.
Okay.
So that would put it into March.
Right. Okay.
But I'm getting different vibes now. So, but they won't commit.
Yeah.
And it's okay with me. Let's do it right. And get it right the first time.
Well, either way, it'll be worth waiting for, no doubt.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Well, hey, thanks again for being with us. Tomorrow night, don't forget, 7 p.m. right here, we're going to have James Simpson. He was an economist in the Reagan administration, the first Bush administration, and the Clinton administration. And we're going to have some conversations about a lot of what's going on in our country. And I know we talked a little bit about communism tonight. And guess what? Just because the Soviet Union fell does not mean that all the communists are gone. And a lot of the stuff that's going on in our streets today goes back to communists. We've recognized, President Trump recently recognized that Antifa is a problem, and they are, of course, a left-wing organization, and there are others out there. So we're going to talk about that and some other things. And then our second guest will be another retired colonel, Colonel Ed Kennedy, And we're going to talk about the naming commission and the laws that were broken in that process and how they seem to be determined to just erase anything and everything related to the Confederacy, even if they have to break laws to do it. So join us up for both of those tomorrow night. And thank you for being with us. We appreciate the support. Once again, thank you to Jonathan and Mary League for their support. We appreciate everybody that tunes in. The subscription is free. Love to have you subscribe. These shows are done live, but hey, as soon as they're done, they're on YouTube and you can share them wherever you want to share them. Once again, appreciate you for tuning in. That's it for Paris, Tennessee, that is.